I never imagined uncovering the heartbreaking stories of medieval women who defied their fate. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The smell of damp earth and old timber filled the air as I stood in the dusty library of the ancient manor. My hands trembled as I slid open the warped books, their pages filled with tales long forgotten. It was then that I stumbled upon the first story, a tale so raw it made my heart race. She was a warrior, a woman dressed in armor, charging into battle while clouds of smoke curled around her feet. Who was she? What drove her to fight in a world where women were often mere shadows? My breath caught in my throat as I read further. Marjorie, they called her. A name whispered in both awe and disdain. She had defied the odds, with a sword in hand and fire in her eyes. Now, let's not forget the dark twist rumors of witchcraft surrounded her. Her beauty, striking and fierce, drew envy like moths to a flame. They said she spoke to spirits, and the townsfolk quaked in their boots. Did she summon storms with just a flick of her wrist? The winds outside howled as if echoing her untamed spirit. But heartbreak lingered too. Marjorie loved fiercely, risking it all for a man named Alaric, a knight who melted her heart but shattered her world. The toll of love in those times was high, and I felt that heavy pressure, the way it would have made her chest ache, each thud in her heart a reminder of impending doom. As my fingers skimmed across the yellowed pages, I was pulled deeper into her plight. Thunder rumbled ominously outside, a perfect backdrop to the unraveling of her fate. The words painted vivid images in my mind, the glint of her sword, the shimmer of her tears, hope mingling with despair. What had happened to her? Had she truly defied her fate, or had it consumed her in the end? Then came the whispers of the other women, silent specters who fought their own battles in the shadows. A healer who could save lives but was accused of stealing them. A peasant girl who dared to speak out against the Lord. Each tale unfolded like a soft plea, drawing me into their desperation and courage. I realized these stories were not just history. They bled with raw emotion and relentless struggle. How could I share their tales and do justice to their pain? The room seemed to darken as the storm outside intensified, the walls closing in on me. I could feel Marjorie's spirit urging me to tell her story, to give a voice to her quiet rage. But then, a sudden crash. The door burst open, breaking my trance. Shadows rushed in, faces filled with urgency and fear. They spoke in frantic whispers about a hidden secret, a truth buried deep that could change everything about my discovery. What was it? My heart pounded. What lay beneath their shouts? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the shadows surged into the library, the acrid scent of dampened panic mixed with the earthy aroma that had enveloped me just moments before. I scrambled to gather my thoughts, my heart racing as I registered the wide eyes of the newcomers. They were a motley crew, forged from desperation, each face hiding its own wounded narrative. Anna! One of them cried, a young woman with hair the color of burnt copper. We found something. You need to see this, now. I was frozen, anchored by the weight of Marjorie's story and the flicker of urgency in their voices. The library, once a sanctuary of solitude and reflection, felt increasingly suffocating. What is it? I managed to ask, my voice betraying a mixture of dread and curiosity. Not here, she urged, her tone insistent. Follow us. They wasted no time pulling me into the tangled embrace of storm-soaked night. Outside, the wind howled, a tempest whipping around us as we navigated the narrow pathways of the manor's overgrown gardens. I could feel their anxiety pulsing around me, a sharp contrast to the warmth of the library where I had lost myself in Marjorie's era. As we reached a secluded alcove beneath a gnarled tree, the group came to a halt. The rain began to fall in earnest, each drop hammering down like the restless heartbeat of the earth itself. The young woman uncrossed her arms and revealed a small, tattered parchment from her cloak. There was a flicker of hope in her eyes, juxtaposed by the gravity of what we were about to uncover. "Listen carefully," she began, her voice barely rising above the storm. "This scroll details Marjorie's true fate. It speaks of her trial and something far more sinister. They didn't just accuse her of witchcraft. They blamed her for the deaths of the very people she fought to protect. My breath itched. The weight of the accusation hung heavy in the humid air. "What do you mean?" I asked, hanging on to every word like a lifeline. "Alaric, the very night she loved," she continued, her brow furrowed in sympathy, "he was killed in battle. They turned on Marjorie, claiming she'd brought misfortune and death to him and the village. I felt the world tilt beneath me. A potent mix of rage and sorrow filled my chest. Had Marjorie still fought valiantly for love, only to be betrayed by those who would have once embraced her? But they didn't know the truth, I whispered, half to myself. She was a hero. Or a scapegoat, the woman replied solemnly. The scroll suggests a conspiracy. Those who envied her power and influence conspired to see her fall. It didn't end with her alone. It was a slaughter of hope, Anna, right under the watch of the very men she fought for. In that moment, the ground seemed to shift beneath me again, not just with the fury of the storm but with an awakening realization. Marjorie's heart echoed in my own. The same pain coursed through me, throngs of a past that weren't yet reconciled. How many more souls had suffered under the weight of undeserved blame? Just as I was lost in contemplation, a shadow flitted through the illumination of lightning. I squinted, heart-thudding. A figure moved fast, a glimpse streaking past us like a warning. "Did you see that?" I asked, my pulse quickening. Before I could rethink the dim possibility, my newfound companions were startled by an approaching noise. A hoof thundered against the cobblestones, a lone figure emerging from the chaos of the storm. A rider, cloaked and hooded, rain bouncing off their silhouette, directed their steed toward us with purpose. In a startling moment, the figure halted, and the hood fell back, revealing the haunted face of a man who pulled at the threads of my forgotten memories, a haunting reminder of my own threads sewn within this tapestry of anguish. It was Alaric, or more accurately, a ghost of his memory. I had seen him in the painted tapestries of the manor, yet here he was again, alive in ways that made the chill of the storm ripple like a chasm opening inside my soul. "Anna," he called, drenched and desperate, "I need your help. They've come for me." The echoes of Marjorie's struggles rang in my ears as I stood, faced with the blending of past and present. My heart raced, torn between the weight of history aching to be uncovered and the urge to protect my very self from the shadows threatening to swallow me whole. "What do you mean?" I stammered. The cliffhanger loomed over me, the crossroads of courage and fear stretching out into the unknown. "I need to show you what really happened," Alaric insisted, stepping forward, urgency lined in his voice. "But we have no time. It's not just Marjorie's fate that rests on the edge, it's ours, too. As I locked eyes with the specter that had haunted my thoughts, my mind swirled with unanswered questions and looming doubts. The storm raged on, echoing my heart's confusion, casting a turbulent shadow on the fragile thread that tied the past to my present. Could I unravel this truth? And at what cost? With unshakable resolve I made my choice. "Then let's go." But as the adrenaline surged through me, an unexpected rumble of thunder echoed in the distance, a reminder that darkness had its own plans, and the truth was a perilous road that might lead to heartbreak anew. The rain drummed on our skin as the urgency wrapped around us like an iron grip, pulling us into the tempest of that fateful night. Alaric's eyes, once filled with valor and strength, now reflected a depth of sorrow that echoed the burdens of dead years. My heart raced with questions that clawed at my insides, and as I took a step toward him, the other souls encircled us, their own fear mingling with curiosity. "Where do we go?" I demanded, eager yet cautious. Each heartbeat amplified the secrets I had only just begun to grasp. "Follow me," Alaric called, turning his mount toward a hidden path that threaded through the dense thicket of trees. The others hesitated, glancing between each other, yet they soon fell in step, uniting in a shared willingness to venture into the unknown. With every stride, flashes of Marjorie's life flickered in my thoughts, her laughter, her art, the fire that sparked her spirit to fight for love and justice. How had her legacy turned so tragic? The weight of her story resonated through me, igniting a fierce determination. As we moved deeper into the thicket, I could hear the drumming of the rain becoming a cadence to our shared heartache. Soon, we reached a clearing that opened up to a crumbling stone structure, overgrown with thorny ivy, relics of what seemed to be a forgotten battlefield. The air hung thick with the scent of earth and decay, encapsulating the irrevocability of loss, a fitting graveyard for secrets buried deep in the ashes of history. Alaric dismounted, his gaze piercing into the dilapidated walls of the old chapel standing before us. "This is where it started," he murmured, half to himself, while carefully placing a hand against the relic of wood and stone. "Where honor lost its way." As we began to step inside, a flicker of movement pulled at the corner of my eye. A figure watched us from the edges of the forest, the glow of a lantern illuminating skin that barely concealed a raw sense of anguish. Confusion pooled in my chest as I turned to Alaric. "Someone's there," I whispered urgently. Alaric strained to listen, seeming torn between pressing forward and identifying the stranger. "It could be a spy," he cautioned. "We cannot take any risks. The enemy thrived on fear like poison. But what if they're searching for the truth?" I pleaded, the flicker of hope rising despite the danger echoed in his voice. "What if they're here to help?" Just then, a shrill voice sliced through the tension, one I recognized. "Anna!" Alaric! The young woman from earlier, with hair like embers, burst into the clearing, breathless and muddy from the rain. "You need to leave. They know you're here." Panic surged through the group as Alaric clenched his jaw. "Who knows? Seek safety in the chapel. We can't risk capture." The words hung in the air, heavy with fear that threatened to crush our resolve. I felt a mix of indignation and urgency at the thought of retreat. "But we still need answers. We can't keep running from the truth." Then, shadows moved in tandem around us, and the wind intensified, as if the very earth beneath us sensed the looming danger. Flashes of figures emerged from the darkness, armed with torches as their shouts pierced the night. "Run!" Alaric shouted, urgency escalating, and just as I turned, a familiar figure stepped from the other side of the clearing. My chest tightened as I recognized the face, the one of a man once promised to Marjorie, who had held love in an unbreakable bond only to be shattered by betrayal. "Marjorie's undoing begins here," he declared, his voice seething with the bitterness of the ages, making every strand of my heart tremble. "And so will yours." Instinctively, I reached for Alaric's hand, but the past intertwined with the present, blurring the lines of time until I could no longer discern my loyalty. Should I save what remains of Marjorie's legacy? Or could I risk it all for a man haunted by more than death? As we turned to flee, I felt the weight of choices pressing in on me, tightening like an iron shackle. The storm retaliated, the sky split open with venomous lightning, illuminating the menacing shapes closing in around us, and my heart fell into a bottomless pit of despair. Could the echo of Marjorie's story ever be redeemed, or was it destined to succumb to the same shadows that plagued those who dared to dream? And then it happened, a figure broke through the storm, cloaked and hooded, but this time, I could only sense a profound connection. An ache coursed through me, electrifying my veins. I turned to Alaric, desperation pooling in my gaze. "I can't bear to lose her again," I confessed, my voice trembling. "What if Marjorie's truth is never unfurled?" Just as Alaric opened his mouth to respond, a flash of unearthly light consumed the clearing, and I felt a surge of wind catching me off guard. In that single moment, as shadows converged upon us and light mingled with darkness, I understood our fates, forever intertwined, balanced on a knife's edge. The echo of a promise made through centuries clashed with the storm outside, and as we braced ourselves to fight for the truth, I realized one vital fact: uncovering the heartbreak was only the beginning. The true battle was yet to come. The revelation lay buried under layers of confusion, waiting for someone to unearth it. And my heart clenched tight against the very fabric of existence, a painful reminder that sometimes past loves haunt the heart in ways we never anticipate. The shadows engulfed the clearing as the storm withered to a low, threatening growl. I stood paralyzed, staring into the light, the haunting presence of Marjorie's former love casting a dark pall over the urgency that had gripped us all. The only thing louder than the crashing thunder was the frantic beating of my heart. "Stay together," Alaric barked, his grip on my hand firm, as he steered me toward the remnants of the chapel. I glanced back, desperate to understand the fury in the man's gaze, but Marjorie's past was rushing toward us like a specter across a battlefield, unrelenting and furious. "Do you know who I am?" he screamed into the night, a mixture of desperation and rage threading through each word. "You're entangled in a web far thicker than any of you understand." I fought against Alaric's pull, a wild urge clashing inside me. "His anger isn't unfounded," I cried, feeling the weight of history draw me closer to the figure who now seemed a mirror of all the hurt that had stitched Marjorie's tale together. "Perhaps he knows something we don't know." Alaric's voice cut through my pleading, but the fire in my chest only intensified. "This is a trap. Hell lead us further down into darkness." But even as I recognized his earnestness, something compelled me forward, a magnetism I could not ignore. "What if we're not the ones ensnared, Alaric?" I asked, my voice shaking, desperation bleeding into resolve. "What if this is the key?" The truth Marjorie yearned for could still be within his grasp. The cloaked figure stepped forward, igniting embers of recognition stoked by the forgotten memories of Marjorie's whispers. "She trusted me," he said, and suddenly his voice was like a blade cutting through the chaos, deep and poignant. "But trust is a fragile thing. It is lost in battles between love and loyalty, predictably shattered by those who love too fiercely. What happened between you?" I probed, needing to pull the collection of haunting details out like threads from a tapestry, creating a picture of Marjorie that was more authentic, more real than what remained in faded stories. "You were promised to her. Why would you betray that promise?" "Ah, promise," he mused, his expression a landscape of regret and fury. "It's an illusion, like love itself, a masquerade donned by mortal hearts. She thought she could carve her own fate, yet we were all marionettes to the whims of the world." Alaric tugged at my arm again, his gaze flickering between anger and fear. "We cannot waste this time. We'll be discovered, we have to go now." But I stood firm, the pain of Marjorie's choices etching deeper into my heart. What if the enemy is already inside us? What if the truth Marjorie fought for could save both of our futures? The cloaked man's expression softened, as if he, too, sensed the weight of the battle we were about to undertake. "Her truth is bound in the stories of all the women cast aside, much like shackles heavy on our souls," he whispered, his words shimmering with an inexplicable power. "Find her letters, the ones she thought lost. They hold the truths that can unveil our shackles and awaken the echoes that remain unheard." Alaric's grip on me tightened, half a plea and half a warning. "We can't indulge in this madness. We have to move." In that moment, a fragile flicker of hope ignited in my chest. "The letters," I murmured, my breath catching in my throat. "They existed. She spoke of them when the stars aligned in stories crafted during twilight. She believed they held the key, the answers we've yet to discover." "Stop!" the cloaked man shouted suddenly, his eyes darting toward the edges of the clearing. "They come for you. You must decide now, will you choose knowledge or flee from the very fabric of your destiny?" Each word lanced through me like ice, yet I felt an undeniable urge brew internally. Could knowledge indeed be a weapon? Could it shield us from the consequences of the choices we'd all made? "Time is bleeding away," Alaric urged again, straining to pull me back. Just as the air shivered with anticipation, the figures surrounding us tightened their approach, their torches flickering like malevolent stars in the tempest. "Fate is cruel and often blind," I whispered, my heart thundering as I turned back to the mysterious figure. "But for Marjorie, I will not yield to despair. We will find her truth, and lift the burden from our shoulders." Suddenly, a deafening crack of thunder split the night, and I felt the ground tremor beneath us, an echo of the conflict stirring within. Just as the dark shapes of our pursuers lunged forward, the cloaked man reached toward me, the heat of his outstretched hand warm against the chill of the storm. "Then take this," he said hurriedly, an object slipping into my grasp. "The first step toward revealing what is hidden lies with you. Before I could even register what he had passed, the world exploded into chaos. Alaric shouted for us to retreat, pushing me back toward the chapel's shadows, the storm's fury echoing our turmoil. I glanced down at my hand to find a crumpled parchment, its essence sparking with the remnants of memories untold. As I turned to Alaric to share the revelation buzzing in my veins, the dark figures halted, their eyes locking onto us with a glint of recognition. And then it hit me, as a bone-chilling realization washed over me, could the cloaked man, with all the darkness that surrounded him, truly be carrying Marjorie's voice? The stakes had elevated into a perilous game, each of us teetering on the brink, destined to unlock secrets that could either shatter or reclaim our collective past. With fear clawing at my resolve, I knew for certain whatever the parchment held, it was the beginning of another battle, and we were all perilously kneeling on the edge of fate, on the cusp of the inevitable storm that would either expose the truth, or drown us all. The storm raged around us, a cacophony of fury that matched the tempest brewing within my heart. The moment felt suspended in time, a crystalline fracture amid the chaos. Alaric's anxious eyes bore into mine, conveying the urgency of our plight, yet I sensed a flicker of fear, perhaps a fear that swirled in tandem with mine. "What is it you hold?" He finally managed to breathe out, his voice thick with tension. I unfurled the aged parchment in my trembling hands, the edges fraying as if they carried with them the weight of history. As I leaned closer to examine the delicate scrawl, a chill cascaded down my spine. Each letter seemed to pulse with life, summoning haunting whispers from the past. The rain drummed against the chapel's stone, a relentless reminder of the tempest that surrounded us both outside and within. "I don't know yet," I murmured, half to myself. "But whatever this is, it's tethered to Marjorie. It feels like a heartbeat." "Then we must go," Alaric insisted, his voice rising against the symphony of thunder. "We can decipher it elsewhere. We'll be swallowed whole by the shadows if we stay here." But I hesitated. How could we flee from something that felt so potent with possibility? What if this is the only chance we have to understand her? To be truthful with ourselves, understanding may keep us alive, but we'll need to find our way out first. His tone softened, his grasp calming slightly on my arm. "Please trust me for now. We can't gamble with our fate." The cloaked figure remained looming in the distance, the storm swirling around him like a dark halo. "The stories of the past are not only shadows," he intoned, his voice rising above the wailing winds. "They are the echoes of lost hearts urging us to break free of silence." Even with Alaric's mounting desperation, I felt drawn back toward the figure. "What do you know of the letters?" I yelled over the storm. "How do I find them?" "Follow the tales that emerge when the moon whispers the secrets of the fallen," he replied cryptically. "The past is never truly lost if one knows where to look." Before I could process his cryptic words, a glint of light caught my eye further away, a beacon cutting through the shadows, moving closer. My heart sank. "We're out of time." Alaric's grip tightened once again as he tugged me backward, away from the figure. "We must move. Now." "Not without understanding," I protested. But something shifted in the atmosphere, a momentary cessation of the storm's fury as if the world held its breath in anticipation. Then I heard it, a whisper, sneaking through the reverberations of the thunder, soft and beckoning. The voice was unmistakably Marjorie's, floating in from somewhere deep inside me. "Seek the truth, become its keeper. Only then can you change the narrative." "Yes!" I exclaimed, wholly influenced by an unseen force. But Alaric's panicked response drained that enthusiasm. "Your words carry weight, but they cannot shield us from danger. We have to go." Just as he pulled me backward, the cloaked figure stepped forward, his face etched with deep shadows that danced along the lines of his features. "You are not alone in this. The bonds of fate are much stronger than they seem," he declared, and his eyes bore into mine, conveying a strange familiarity that twisted the knots in my stomach. "Who are you?" I demanded, wrestling against Alaric's hold just long enough to ask. "Why does Marjorie's voice resonate with yours?" "I am a relic of the past," he answered, profound sorrow filling his voice. "A guardian of all forgotten stories and perhaps a key to unveiling hers." He raised a hand, and something glittered in the storm light. It was another parchment, slightly charred around the edges, begging to be discovered. Take it. Let it guide your steps. You can't trust him. Alaric shouted, wide-eyed, fear flooding his expression as shadows began to flicker closer, creeping around our ankles like a malevolent fog. But I was caught between the allure of answers and the danger lurking just beyond the veil. As I reached out toward the parchment, my fingers brushed against its surface, the sensation jolting through me like electricity. The moment I touched it, time froze. A memory began to unfold before my very eyes, Marjorie's laughter mingling with the soft rustle of leaves, her silhouette framed under a golden sunset, a vibrant palette of colors vibrating with life. And alongside those visuals came an overwhelming sensation of loss, a weight that settled in my chest and clawed at my heart. Marjorie, I whispered, feeling the tears that threatened to spill mingle with the rain on my cheeks. In that instance, the divide between past and present blurred, each heartbeat harmonizing with hers. The shadows thickened, urging Alaric to pull me away. Wake up! He cried, panic lacing through his voice as reality threatened to consume me in its grasp. But something ignited within me, fierce as a dying star. I won't leave yet. This is our chance. Suddenly, the air surged with energy, and the ground shook violently beneath us. It felt as if the very world were rebelling, the storm's wrath echoing my inner turmoil. The cloaked man's eyes widened, realization dawning as he perceived the depth of my commitment, and perhaps the danger it presented. Fate intertwines, he cautioned, backing away slightly, but sometimes destiny is better left uncharted. But just as clarity pierced through the haze of uncertainty, as I began to grasp the weight of what was unfolding, a colossal crash of thunder erupted above us, illuminating the night sky. In that brief moment of brilliance, amidst flashes of white-hot light, I saw the ghostly figures, women shrouded in the storm, their faces marred by sorrow and defiance, reaching through the veil of time to connect with me. Listen! Their combined echoes filled the air. We held our truth, you must not break the chain. Before I could fully comprehend, the shadows surged forward, extinguishing the moment. Alaric, panic-stricken, yanked me back with a force that nearly toppled me. Now! We have to run! As he dragged me away from the impending darkness, I clutched the parchment, the words barely readable against the storm. But beneath the surface, a revelation swirled, awaiting the right moment to break free from its fragile confines. Trust in the stories, I whispered, adrenaline fueling my resolve, not truly knowing the weight of my words, yet sensing an undeniable truth brewing inside. As we stepped into the shelter of the chapel, the storm's wailing became a sinister lullaby, and I knew, with a certainty that pierced through the chaos, that the storm was only just beginning. What lay ahead could tear us apart, or bind us together in ways we never could have imagined. But out there, in the tempest, the threads of revelation were starting to weave a narrative, one that promised heartbreak but might also light the way through the darkness of our fate. The howling winds outside the chapel whispered tales of passion and despair as Alaric and I found ourselves in the dim confines of the old structure. Shadows danced against the weathered stone walls, and the echoes of the storm permeated the air, wrapping us in a shroud of uncertainty. Are you all right? Alaric's voice broke through my daze, concern etched deeply on his brow. Though I had felt alive in an inexplicable way moments before, the pulses of revelations echoed around me, now felt as heavy as the deluge outside. I think so, I managed, but I could tell by the tightening of his jaw that he wasn't convinced. As I caught a glimpse of the parchment ID clutched in my hand, the words raced through my mind, begging to be deciphered. I wondered if they held the answer, what secrets Marjorie's laughter concealed, what truths had led her to this very storm. Yet doubt gnawed at me. What if the answers lay in a heartache best left buried? We need to regroup, Alaric stated with urgency, breaking me from my thoughts. Let me look at that. He reached for the parchment, but I recoiled instinctively, the anxiety of revealing its contents weighing heavily on me. It's ours, I said quietly, almost a plea. I need to understand it before we delve into anything else. He studied me, his trust wavering as the storm raged on, the voices of the past morphing into a haunting symphony. This isn't just about you. It's about both of us, he insisted, his eyes darkening with the shadows enveloping our fragile bond. What we discover could change everything. What if we can't handle it, like fleeing Marjorie's memory while clinging to her voice? I countered, biting back against the bitter sting of accusation. His silence hung in the air, a sign that my words cut deeper than intended. As we stood at the threshold of desolation and potential truth, the weight of our shared burden settled heavily upon me. What if searching for her legacy only leads to more pain? Alaric said, his voice softer now. We have our own lives to live, yet our lives are intertwined with hers, I replied. Isn't that worth exploring? Haven't we already acknowledged that our fates blend and twist like thread before a flame? He looked away, the flash of raw emotion illuminating his features as he wrestled with his own fears. The storm's crescendo seemed to mimic the turmoil in his heart, but deep down, I sensed an ember of hope flickering, yearning to connect but shrouded in doubt. Then let's take a moment, Alaric acquiesced, his voice firming with resolve. This parchment may be our only lifeline to everything she was, everything we dreamed to understand. We perched on the chapel's weathered pew, our surroundings cloaked in the deepening dusk, enveloped by the suffocating atmosphere of the storm, a reference to the tumult within. As I carefully unfurled the fragile scroll, the parchment felt alive beneath my fingertips. Each word was laced with an urgency that resonated deeply. I am the pulse of the moon, fear not the shroud of shadows. For those who carry the weight of silence must learn to dance with the storm, or be torn asunder by its rage. The words rolled over me like a tide, a promise intertwined with peril. They hinted at so much the legacy Marjorie carried, and maybe in time, what she had wished to unveil. What does this mean? I pondered aloud as the echoes of her voice beckoned to me still. Alaric leaned closer, the intensity of his gaze igniting recognition. It speaks of bravery off facing whatever truth lies ahead, he whispered, but as he spoke, shadows slithered across his face, pulling at his confidence. But dancing with the storm is dangerous. We might not survive it. Just as we traced the thread of contemplation, a sudden crash of thunder shook the chapel. The air thickened with static, and something in the atmosphere shifted. The candlelight flickered violently as an unseen force surged around us, intensifying into a storm of its own within the chapel walls. From deep within the hidden recesses of the shadows, a figure emerged, a woman, clad in flowing fabric that seemed to flutter as though caught in an ethereal breeze. Her eyes glinted like shards of glass under the flickering light. Your bond carries echoes of pain, yet you must seek to understand or remain prisoners of the past, she spoke, her voice haunting yet soothing, giving me pause. I am Marjorie's reflection, one of the keepers of her story. What do you mean? I stammered, lost in her gaze as reality began to fragment around me. The truth you seek is entwined within the memories of many, she said softly, heartbreak woven into her words. Each one of us holds a fragment of her heart. And the storm shall not calm until it is complete. Where are the others? Alaric asked, shaken yet unyielding in his pursuit of answers. Scattered like leaves in the winds of time, but your journey shall guide you to them. The spectral woman stepped closer, her presence simultaneously intimidating and enveloping. Each moment of discovery bears weight, but only if you dare to uncover it. Revelations will change the path before you, and shadows will chase you if you fail to embrace the light of truth. With a wave of her hand, swirling energy surrounded us, lifting me into a vision not just of Marjorie but of other women, fierce, defiant, and indomitable, each one cloaked in woe yet radiating strength. Keep the stories alive, the spectral figure whispered as the vision morphed into darkness, pulling me back from the edge of understanding into the tempest once more, where pain mingled with possibility. The moment shattered, leaving me breathless. Alaric's eyes mirrored my fervent disbelief. The world felt heavier now, burdened by the knowing that Marjorie's story was just the beginning. We can't turn back now. We have to find the others, I breathed, my heart racing with both dread and exhilaration at the implications of what lay ahead. As we stood together, suspended between fear and newfound determination, a fierce bolt of lightning illuminated the darkness, casting our shadows in stark relief against the chapel's stone walls. And it felt as if the very fabric of fate was unraveling, creating a chasm of uncertainty that could either shatter us or bind us together forever. Stay close, Alaric urged, gripping my hand tightly, anchoring me to the moment as the winds began to howl with a fresh intensity. Just as I felt his warmth seep through me, and for the first time, I grasped the enormity of our path, a journey filled with peril, sorrow, and possibly, profound love. The impending storm was truly only the beginning. And then, through the piercing chaos, I heard a whisper, soft but unmistakable. Find us. In that instant, the weight of the world pressed on my heart, entwining our fates ever closer as the storm beckoned with ominous foreboding, teasing the edges of our destinies yet to unfold. The winds had not abated. They shrieked and wailed like the forgotten souls of the very women we sought to resurrect through their stories. As Alaric and I stood hand in hand in the dim chapel, a chord of unease was struck deep within me, resonating with the implications of our next steps. The flickering candlelight offered little comfort against the darkness pressing in from outside, or the shadows weaving about us, hinting at the weight of secrets lurking in the depths of the unknown. Find us, the voice had urged, but from where? And how could we hope to unearth these women's tales when they lingered in shadows beyond our reach? I could feel my pulse quickening, the urgency to follow the thread of this quest unraveling in the very marrow of my bones. The parchment still lay open in my hands, and I longed to discern more than it had offered. Let's find a safe place to think, Alaric suggested, his voice a soothing balm against the tumult around us. We need to gather our thoughts and our courage. I am ready, I replied, perhaps more to myself than to him. The weight of Marjorie's words hung heavily in the air, twisting tighter around my heart like a vine ensnaring a tree. Navigating through the storm was a challenge. The chapel's stone steps felt slick beneath our feet, and the darkness thickened, enfolding us in a silken shroud. But as we stepped outside, the sight of the lightning cleaving the sky brought clarity, illuminating the path forward. Alaric, I whispered as we made our way through the maze of weather-battered trees, do you think these women are real? What if they're only a figment of Marjorie's anguish? He halted mid-step, the force of his conviction undeniable. They're real. I believe it. Their struggles, their stories, each layer holds weight. Marjorie's voice, she wouldn't send us on this endeavor if there wasn't something profound waiting for us. His faith stirred something within me, a flicker of hope entwined with the uncertainty. We had ventured into a vast unknown, yet the notion that we were not alone brought warmth to my chilled skin, strengthening the connection woven between us. As we trekked deeper into the forest, the storm loomed above us, bellowing like a sentient creature, thrashing against the trees. Just when the atmosphere seemed insurmountable, we stumbled across a small clearing, where nature quieted for an instant, as though granting us a reprieve. At the heart of the clearing stood another ancient structure, a crumbling stone cottage, tangled in ivy. Soft light glowed from its window, casting a flickering box of warmth in stark contrast to the raging storm. How is there light here? Alaric murmured, awe swimming in his eyes. Maybe someone stayed here, perhaps they know something. I gestured toward the door, and together we approached, exchanging hesitant glances as we neared the threshold. Before I could knock, the door swung open with an eerie creak, revealing a figure cloaked in shadows. It was a woman, her face obscured, yet I could sense the weight of her gaze, the kind of gaze that had borne witness to countless stories hidden beneath layers of sorrow. Come in, lost souls, the woman beckoned, her voice smooth like honey yet sharp like crystal, commanding without urgency. The tempest rages, but within these four walls, we might find solace. Trusting the instinct deep within, we stepped into the sanctuary. The interior was dimly lit by a few candles, creating flickering shadows that danced along the walls, evoking ancient tales and forgotten laughter. Why does it feel like a prison? Alaric whispered from beside me. It's not, the woman replied, as though she could hear his thoughts. Not if you welcome the truths that lie within. A friend spoke to us, I began, my heart pounding as I glanced at Alaric, who was equally spellbound. Marjorie, she asked us to search for Others, a legacy. Your legacy? The woman's demeanor shifted, her eyes glinting with recognition, a hardened softness revealing herself beneath the shadows. Marjorie? Yes, she was a fierce heart among us, one who stood tall when the winds were strongest. But barren. Mind, not all stories are like hers. Some weave a darker Huguenoting pain beyond comprehension. Then we want to know. We need to understand what happened to her and to you, I replied, my breath hitching. Can you share? As she began to speak, weaving tales of resilience and fight, a bell sounded deeply in the distance, reverberating through the small space. The reverberations paradoxically soothed and unsettled us, its resonance tinging the air with trepidation. Then, the spectral figure of Marjorie appeared before me, a vivid likeness formed from the very light in the room, flickering like a candle that tempoed with her breath. Seek out the heart in the shadows, Marjorie urged, her voice threading into the space, weaving like a tapestry of sound. Trust the bonds between the stories. They will lead you to what is hidden but neither forgotten nor lost. As she faded, the burden of her words pressed heavily upon my spirit, the depth of how much remained unseen twisting in my gut. Before I could process, the woman beside me grasped my hands in her own, her eyes holding mine captive. You, dear one, walk a perilous path. You will unearth truths that bind more than just you to this legacy. The storm is only a whisper of what awaits, a grim reminder of the trials to come. Yet your hearts are strong, I can feel the light through you. Remember to dance with it, or fear the shadows that grow. Just as I began to ask her the meaning behind the shadows, the ground shook. A rush of wind blasted through the open door, snuffing out candles and drowning us in darkness, ominously mirroring the uncertainties enclosed within our hearts. As fear cascaded through me, a fleeting voice cut through the dark. You are not alone. Before I could respond, the woman and the cottage vanished like vapor into the void, leaving us bewildered, swirling on the precipice of revelation and despair, our futures entwined with shadows more profound than we could have ever anticipated. Alaric, I breathed, surveying the emptiness around us, my heart racing. What just happened? Whatever it was, we need to move, he urged, a fresh determination coursing through him. We're running out of time. And with those words, the weight of all we'd encountered pushed us forth into the heart of the storm, into the very essence of our intertwined destinies. The journey to uncover the heartbreaks of the past hadn't truly begun. The storm howled like a pack of wolves, rattling the leaves as we retreated into the encroaching darkness. With the cottage's sudden dissolution into thin air, confusion clawed at my mind, racing alongside the wind. The void left by the mysterious woman felt infinite, and despair seeped through the cracks in my heart. I glanced at Alaric, whose expression mirrored my emotions, an intricate blend of frustration and determination. We have to push through, Ava. That was a warning, not just a signpost, he said firmly, though I could see doubt warring within him. But what if we don't know where to go? I whispered, the weight of the moment pressing down upon us. What if we're just wandering into something worse? He tightened his grip on my hand, grounding me amidst the wild chaos. We search for the heart in the shadows. The woman must know something. Where do you hear that? I interrupted. For a brief moment, the sounds of the tempest dulled, replaced by a soft rustle, words dancing on the breeze that seemed to call out for us. It's almost like they're whispering. Whispering what? Alaric searched my eyes, the urgency pulling him forward. What do they say? I strained to catch the ghost of the melody that floated through the trees. It was a fragile harmony, laced with both sorrow and strength. I don't know, but it sounds like stories. A flicker of hope ignited within me, last remnants of the warmth gained from the woman's presence. Maybe we should follow it, I mused. Perhaps there's something more beyond this chaos, something that can help us understand. With resolve, we turned toward the growing whisper. It was faint, insistent, like a river threading its way through solid stone, leading us to hidden depths. As we moved cautiously forward, the storm ebbed and flowed around us, a tempestuous symphony playing to the rhythm of our footsteps. The trees shifted overhead, their branches knotted together like the very fates we sought to uncover. But just as we pressed onward, doubt began to gnaw at me. Alaric, I murmured, what if we're lost? We might never find what we seek. He stopped and directed his attention to me, urgency flickering away. We're only lost if we give up. Remember why we started this. Marjorie didn't ask much of us, but she entrusted us with her story. We're threads in this tapestry, Ava, woven into something larger. His voice, steady and heartfelt, surrounded me, wrapping tight against my fears. Believe in that, and the answers will follow. Just as those words settled around me, a figure emerged from the gloom, a young girl, no older than 10, cloaked in tattered fabrics. Her hair tumbled in wild curls haloed around her face, and her presence radiated an otherworldly light, drawing both of us to her. "Please!" she implored, her voice a fragile whisper tinged with urgency. "Help us! The stories are trapped. You must set them free. Who are you?" I managed to ask, taken aback by her unexpected appearance in the midst of chaos. "She was a striking yet delicate presence that I am alone," she replied, her small hands trembling as she clenched her fists, "and I was like you, seeking answers. But the darkness has swallowed much of our truth. You must find the heart before they take it away forever." My heart pounded, liquid fear threatening to overwhelm me. "What darkness?" I pressed, looking to Alaric. "A darkness that feeds off of sorrow," she continued, "the shadows that shroud the stories of many women like Marjorie. You cannot let it win." "Where do we find this heart?" Alaric asked, his voice cutting through the tension, urging us onward. "They're hidden in the stones of the old mill," she said, a tremor of excitement quivering through her. "Follow the light, the whispers will guide you." Before I could breathe, she pointed deeper into the woods, and as she did so, the sounds of the storm surged around us once more, echoing with an urgency that made my skin prickle. "The storm is worse now. You don't have long. Hurry." With time slipping through our fingers like sand, we took off toward the mill. Eloan's presence faded into the shadows, leaving echoes of hope and fear entwined in my heart. Goosebumps prickled my skin as I recalled the lost echoes of Marjorie's spirit, the burden of stories desperate to emerge. Suddenly, as if the darkness itself was responding to our momentum, I heard faint screams weaving through the mix of frenzied wind and rain, cries layered with an unmistakable sorrow. Alaric's brow furrowed, and the resolute look on his face hardened even further. "Ava, do you hear that?" he rasped, faltering in our stride. "It sounds like," I whispered, dread creeping upon me. I looked into Alaric's eyes, feeling the connection sparking. What if it's them? What if those we seek are in peril? The very wind seemed to howl in agreement, and I felt a sharp shiver run down my spine, the storm now an embodiment of the battle against darkness struggling to hold our destinies hostage. "They need us," Alaric said, "we have to push through." But as we pressed on, the screams amplified, transforming into anguished cries that sent arrows of pain deep into my heart. A splintering realization settled within me. What lay ahead was far darker than I had ever imagined. In my heart, I could feel the shadows creeping closer, threatening to consume everything we fought for. With each step, I could grit my teeth against the fear and uncertainty, focused only on our mission. But deep down, where hope and dread intertwined, I understood we were on our way to confront a truth more heartbreaking than either of us dared to imagine. The rain lashed at us with relentless fury, each drop a reminder of the shadows we could not escape. Alaric and I stumbled over twisted roots and slick stones, the landscapes shifting like the narratives we sought. The storm had transformed the forest into a labyrinth, and every scream resonated in my mind, chiseling away at any semblance of resolve I had left. "Stay close!" Alaric shouted above the howl, pulling me forward when I nearly lost my footing. Each frantic pace felt like a race against time, a race against the darkness tightening its grip on the stories even as they twisted and turned through the trees like phantoms. "Do you really think we can save them?" I asked breathlessly, the weight of disbelief anchoring my heart. "What if we're just adding ourselves to their suffering, then well at ourselves?" he replied fiercely, conviction igniting his eyes. "We made a promise to Marjorie. We promised to find a way. That means facing whatever horror awaits us." His words kindled a sliver of bravery within me, pushing me to confront the gnawing despair that threatened to pull me under. We had to believe that even in darkness, there was light to be found. Finally, after what felt like an age, we stumbled upon the old mill, its once majestic structure now battered but still standing, a monument to forgotten stories. The air around it crackled with energy, something ancient and profound. "Look!" Alaric pointed, his voice laced with urgency as he drew my gaze toward the stones of the mill. They shimmered with a faint luminescence, an ethereal glow that pulsed like a heartbeat. It was as if Eloan's call echoed through them, urging us to draw closer. Yet just as we approached, the ground trembled beneath our feet, and the storm unleashed its most violent Shoyuda torrent of wind and rain that swirled around us, disrupting the air and darkening the sky further. Shadows coalesced, shapes bending and twisting, forming chaotic figures that emerged from the swirling gloom. "They're here!" I gasped, recognition striking deep as I realized these figures were not mere specters but the very essences of those we sought, women whose stories had been swallowed by the force of despair. Their faces were familiar yet transformed, lined with anguish, eyes filled with an unyielding sorrow that mirrored the screams. "Ava!" Alaric cried out, pulling me against him as the apparitions drew closer. "We have to find the light among them. I can't just stand here and watch," I exclaimed, desperation clawing at my throat as I broke away from him, determined to reach out to them. I could feel their pain, the heart-wrenching echoes of lost legacy filling the space between us. "Please," I implored them, tears spilling down my cheeks, mixing with the rain. "Tell me how to help you. What do you need?" They hovered, their gaze fixated on me, and I sensed their stories within each tear, each breath, waiting for the moment when one might break the silence. It felt unbearable, shrouded in raw emotion and yearning. The wind changed, amplifying a single voice amidst the chorus, resonant and filled with the weight of centuries. "Release us, kind heart, release what binds our stories, and you shall uncover the heart," it whispered, a fragile thread connecting me to the haunting past. "Release what binds," I echoed, turning to Alaric, who stood frozen, overtaken by the flood of emotions swirling around us. "There must be something we need to do." Suddenly, the shadows shrieked anew, and their cries melded with the storm, surrounding us with thunderous intensity. It felt as if they were warning us, directing us. The glimmer of light at the heart of the mill pulsed brighter, igniting a flicker of hope in my chest. "Alaric, we need to break the cycle. It's them we have to free, their stories," I insisted, pulling him toward the glow, heart racing with newfound belief. As we reached the stones, a blinding light burst forth from the fissures, illuminating the darkness. But just as I placed my hands upon the ancient stones, I felt a jolt of energy surge through my body, a connection to the haunting shadows surrounding us. In an overwhelming wave, I was bombarded with images, faint snapshots of the women's lives, their struggles, the heartbreak of lost love, the tyranny of silence that had held them prisoner. Pain suffused my heart, and I gasped, the stories spinning too fiercely to grasp. "Ava! Hold on!" Alaric shouted, but my vision began to blur as the memories overwhelmed me. Then, in an instant, silence fell. The shadows recoiled, waiting. The storm abated for a heartbeat, and in that stillness, I glimpsed the faces of women like flowers blooming in the dark, each one unveiling a truth hidden by sorrow. "Remember the whispers," one of the shadows urged, her voice caressing my mind. "Remember us, and we shall guide you to the heart." But as I stepped further into the light, something beyond comprehension coiled in the edges of my minder revelation, pulsing like a beating heart, a truth that felt both illuminating and treacherous. What if in uncovering their stories, we opened a wound too deep to bear? Just then, the shadows shifted, revealing a twisted figure at the edge of the light, familiar yet alien, a figure cloaked in mystery. My heart dropped into my stomach as I recognized the essence of the woman who had churned our journey, her intentions now a fog of confusion. "Marjorie," I breathed, feeling the air grow heavy with the weight of what was to come. But just before her voice could spill forth, darkness surged violently, and the cacophony of the storm roared back to life, swallowing the threads of connection. "Do not turn away!" the shadows cried as I felt the arms of the storm tighten around me, and then suddenly, everything shattered. I was thrown back into the present, gasping as reality rushed into focus. My heart raced, the storm around us fading to a distant roar, a murmur against the pressing silence within. Alaric gripped my arm, concern etched upon his face. "Ava! Are you with me?" His voice felt like an anchor amidst the tempest of my thoughts, yet the remnants of the visions lingered, vivid and unyielding. I saw them, I managed, breath catching as memories of the women surged, their laughter, their tears, their struggles woven into the very fabric of existence. They need us to remember their stories so they can be free. The heart, Alaric whispered, eyes darting toward the glimmer at the mill's center. But what binds them? What do we have to break? I felt the weight of his gaze, urging me to find the answers that evaded us both. Taking a step toward the stones, I placed my hand carefully upon the smooth surface. The energy pulsed again, and as I closed my eyes, I focused intently on the sound of their whisper, soulful yet fraught with pain. Tell me, I pleaded. What binds you to this place? A wind swirled, carrying the softest breath of laughter mixed with sorrow. Fear, a voice echoed, resonant and all-encompassing. Fear keeps us shackled to these stories. Fear of truth. Fear of what lies beyond our legacies. Suddenly, the flood of fear morphed into clarity, filling me with determination. And if we can face that fear, I whispered to Alaric, then maybe we can offer them the freedom they sought. We have to confront it together. In that moment, I opened my eyes and looked into Alaric's, that spark of connection flaring brighter between us, radiating courage against the shadows gathering at the edges. Will you stand with me? He nodded, eyes steady and resolute. Always. With newfound strength, we both grasped the stones, our fingertips brushing fiercely against their energy. The storm responded, its fury diminishing as the shadows began to dance and swirl around us, merging with the light in their tender embrace. It's time to rewrite the truth, I declared, my voice rising above the cacophony that threatened to consume us once more. Marjorie and all those who suffered will no longer be silenced by fear. The enormity of my words thundered in my heart, unraveling the chains that bound not only the spirits surrounding us but also my OW and .as. If ignited by my declaration, the stones beneath us illuminated, glowing radiantly, sending ripples of warmth through our bodies. The shadows drew closer, bathed in light, their faces becoming clearer, as anguish melted into expressions of hope. Remember us, they urged in unison, their voices rising in harmony like a requiem-turned anthem. And then I saw the heart of the storm, a pulsating source of energy nestled within the fabric of the mill, where love and loss intersected. Together, I said to Alaric, our hearts beating as one, let's break the cycle. With every ounce of will we could summon, we swept our arms wide, extending our energy into the air like an embrace. The wind whipped violently, but as our intentions soared, the storm surrounding us began to soften, its rage tempered into whispers of understanding. Then, a brilliant flash illuminated the sky, casting aside the remnants of fear, revealing a vibrant tapestry of stories, each thread illuminating our shared legacy in beautiful hues. The shadows, now transformed, twisted into light and laughter, swirling around us as the pain of their sacrifices began to ebb, giving way to acceptance. I felt a warmth blossom in my chest, a surge of indescribable emotion coursing through me, not just for Marjorie and the countless women lost to time, but for every heart that had been silenced. Forgive, forgive, the voices sang, a sweet lullaby laced with both longing and relief. As the storm receded, the brilliant pulse at the heart of the mill enveloped us, drawing Alaric and me closer to it, merging our spirits with the echoes before us. In that pristine moment, I felt a profound connection to them, all their dreams, their hopes, they were now bound within mine. We will remember, I pledged, my voice meeting the harmonics of the world around us, solidifying the promise we made to keep their stories alive, where light and shadow intertwined in an everlasting embrace. The final echoes of the storm settled, and I opened my eyes once more, taking in the serene atmosphere of the clearing. The air felt different, electric with life. Alaric stood by my side, his smile breaking through the remnants of anguish that had shadowed us both. Did we do it? He asked, eyes alight with wonder. Yes, I breathed, heart swelling with the realization. We did. They can finally rest. And just then, amidst the last whispers of fading storm clouds, I felt a presence, a gentle warmth enveloping us both. A voice, like a soft caress, draped the air. Thank you. As the last vestiges of the storm dissolved into serenity, I turned to Alaric. This journey our hearts have found a home in the stories of those before us. Under the remnants of dawn, as light kissed the horizon, I realized our fight would echo well beyond our own hearts, a promise tethered to both the past and the future. And as the sun broke the horizon, painting the sky in shades of amber and gold, I whispered, Heartbreak may lead to shadows, but love, in its truest form, always illuminates the path to healing. In that moment, with Alaric's hand holding mine tight, my heart understood the infinite truth therein. Love transcends time and space, and through our shared stories, we could weather any storm together. So we did. And like the dawn following the darkest night, we walked forward, hearts tethered and free.